Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the October 1st, 2014 special meeting of the Daytona Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, CRA. We're delighted to have you with us this evening. At this time, I would ask that Mrs. Thomas will review our procedures for the meeting.
Good afternoon. Agendas are available in the front of the room on the table to my right. All of the exhibits pertaining to items on the agenda are posted on the bulletin board here in the chambers. Please feel free to view them at any time during this afternoon's meeting. You are required to fill out a blue form. My assistant, Ms. LaMagna, is holding the form up. You must complete the sections that ask for your name, address, topic of concern, agenda item number, signature, and date. The form must be completed and placed in the designated box prior to the item coming before the CRA. Item 6A is your opportunity to address the Community Redevelopment Agency concerning any item on this afternoon's agenda that is not scheduled as a public hearing, or you may address the CRA on any issue that is not on the agenda. Resolutions under administrative items number 7 are open for public comments, and you may fill out a blue form to speak before the CRA. All citizens completing a blue form will be allowed to speak for 2 minutes. When you approach the lectern, please speak clearly into the microphone and give your full name and address. The 2-minute clock will begin. You will be told when your time has expired. Disorderly conduct in public meetings of the CRA. Article 2, Section 62-38 of the City Code of Ordinances reads as follows. It shall be unlawful for any person to behave in a riotous or disorderly manner in any public meeting of the city CRA or any committee, agency, or board thereof, or cause any unnecessary disturbances therein by force, shouting, or any other action calculated to disrupt such meeting, or refuse to obey any ruling of the presiding officer of such meeting. All conversation must take place either at the lectern or on the dais so that everyone can hear the business that's being discussed this afternoon. Thank you.
Mrs. Thomas, may we have a roll call?
Commissioner Reed? Here. Commissioner Lynn?
Here.
Commissioner Woods?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Here.
Commissioner Gilliland?
Here.
Commissioner Henry?
Here.
Mayor Derek Henry.
Here. We will now have the invocation led by Commissioner Henry, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Reed.
Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for this opportunity to serve our city. I ask that you give us wisdom, guidance, and understanding as we go about the people's business. In your precious Son, Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now move on to item 4A, the approval of the September 17th regular meeting of the CRA.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gilliland and a second by Commissioner Reed. All those in favor, let it be known by saying yay.
Yay.
Lights not opposed.
You're mixing it up.
Lights not opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. We'll stick with the ayes. We'll now move on to item number 5, agenda approval. If there are any changes, our manager will read them.
No changes, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second. We have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Henry. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Lights not opposed, same sign. The motion carries 7-0.
We will now move on to item 6A. It is our public comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the CRA concerning any item on tonight's agenda that is not scheduled as a public hearing, or you may address the CRA on any issue that is not on the agenda. I do have one speaker. His name is Corin Butler Abraham.
Hello, how y'all doing today?
Well, we're here for Orange Avenue. It's a
State your name and address, please, and one person at a time. If you would like to fill out a form, you can speak. Oh, okay.
My name would be Abraham Cassis, manager of the place where we work at, Caring Fathers Academy, is Corey, right on Orange Avenue.
Go ahead.
Is there anything particularly you want to say?
Yeah, we want to speak on the...
State your name and address, please.
I'm Camille Butler, speaking on behalf of Corin Butler. I'm the Assistant Director of Caring for Others Academy at 956 Orange Avenue. And we want to talk about the construction that's been going on. And we've been having a lot of issues with it where we're losing a lot of money because it's been going on for a while. A lot of our students been complaining about getting to it. We had a lot of people say they had to turn around because most of our students come from like Deltona, Edgewater and stuff, so, you know, they're not used to getting through the traffic. And our boss actually had to take his check from his other job and pay the bills at the school. So we've been losing a lot of money. We've been having to take our own personal checks to cover our house bills, to cover the school bills because we've been losing business. We normally get like 18 students a week. We only be getting like 4 or 5. Like I work there and I'm still waiting on my paycheck, but I only know it's because we haven't been able to make any money. So, but it's been because of the construction and we're getting a lot of complaints about the construction. Even other businesses in that plaza has been losing business, like the Orange Avenue liquor store, churches, the hair store, some of the doctors, some of the patients at the doctor's office began complaining about it. We've even been having people come to our school just to ask how to get to the DMV.
Okay, does he wish to speak also? Or is that-
Yes, sir, can I?
You
Yes.
reported 2
Well,
minutes also.
Abraham Cassis again, I'm back, sorry about that. The business, I'm the private security officer there, and before the construction, they had a lot more people, a lot more clientele, you know, a lot more business. The construction, we see people, they work, then one day they're off, then they work again, one day they off. Okay, why can they not work all week long and take the weekend off? I mean, I know construction is real hard, but it seems like it's taken forever for them to get it done. And like she was saying, the lady I work for, yeah, it is cutting into people's paychecks, and we're actually trying to stay open, and it's kind of hard to stay open if you're not making money. We have the light bill to pay for the businesses, the materials and stuff we need to buy for the students, and it actually seems to be very, very hard. Yeah, it seems to be real hard because thank God that Mr. Corey has a second job. He's using his money from his second job to pay his employees, which is me and a few other people that are working there now. Now, let's say if Mr. Corey did not have a second job, how would he keep the school running? You know, so he's a very smart guy, but it's putting a hurting on the business. I mean, people, they can't even figure out the back roads to get to us, so they just say, forget it, never mind, and then they leave, and, you know, all because of the road. And that's like, what, $170 there that we're losing just off of one person. But, I mean, are they able to work every day, or is it too hard on people that do that type of work?
I'm not going to address what their work schedule is or how they...
I see. Yes, sir. Well, I do thank you for your time, but it's hurting the business, it really is, because it's taking forever just for them to get done. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That is our final speaker, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to our administrative items. Item 7A is the Salvation Army Downtown Streets Team Agreement Renewal Resolution, a resolution exercising the option to renew the Downtown Streets Team funding agreement with the Salvation Army for an additional and final one-year period ending September 30th, 2015, approving the expenditure of tax increment funds in the amount of $20,000 from the Downtown Redevelopment Area Trust Fund and the amount of $20,000 from the Main Street Redevelopment Area Trust Fund, authorizing the chair and city clerk to execute the renewal agreement and providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gilliland and a second by Commissioner White. Do we have any speakers?
No, sir, no speakers.
Do we have any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Lights not opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item 7B, it is the Downtown Beach Street Prototype E Waste Enclosures Expenditure of Funds Resolution. A resolution approving the expenditure of tax increment funds from the Downtown Redevelopment Area Trust Fund in an amount of $99,350 for construction of waste enclosures on Beach Street in the Downtown Redevelopment Area and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner White and a second by Commissioner Reed. Do we have any speakers?
No, sir, no speakers.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Lights not opposed, same sign. Motion also carries 7-0.
Moving on to item 7C, it is expenditure of funds resolution. A resolution approving the expenditure of tax increment funds from the Ballou Road Redevelopment Area Trust Fund in an amount of $37,513.51 for underground facility conversions on Sickler Drive in the Ballou Road Redevelopment Area and providing an effective date.
So moved.
And we have a motion by Commissioner White and a second by Commissioner Gilliland. Do we have any speakers?
No, sir, no speakers.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Lights not opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item 7D, it is the discussion of the Orange Avenue Improvements Construction Project by the City Commission.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. McLemore will be here to give you a brief overview of the project and happy to answer any questions after we've done that.
Okay.
We did.
Mr. McLemore.
Listen to this. I missed it.
Good evening. By way of background, let me just quickly overview where we come from, where we are. All road projects to varying degrees has impacts on property owners. That hasn't changed, it always does. It changes by characteristics of the project, a particular project, what types of property owners are in that area, but they all, to some degree, have impacts. For that reason, the state law requires that in order to do a road project, that a city or county or whoever has to develop a maintenance of traffic plan. The maintenance of traffic plan specifies the signage and the circulation that can be put in place to maintain access. We are required by law to maintain access during the construction project to all properties. After a very exhaustive study that went on for more than 6 months between all the various members of the project team, the current plan or MOT plan was adopted. Although it has road closures included in it, it maintains access to all properties, and it is by far the least intrusive option that we have due to the nature of this project, which is quite unique in a couple of ways. One, you have very limited right-of-way, and you have to construct the project between the curb lines. Inside that right-of-way, there's all kinds of utilities, including gas. There's a huge stormwater in this one line that goes down the middle of the road. It is impossible to build without, in the two-lane sections of this highway, without closing the entire road. So we did have, before construction started, numerous public meetings to try to talk to people about the MOT plan and what it entailed. There were several meetings. We actually sent out by mail invitations to all the property owners. We followed up by calls to their residents at their properties to get them there. We made a very, very complete, I think, effort to try to get people there to talk about the MOT plan. On June 23rd, the notice to proceed went to the contractor, and then on August 25th, the first complete closure was initiated. And then shortly after, we began to hear from the businesses expressing their concern about the impacts of the closures on their businesses. During this time, the contractor and the city staff have maintained communication with the property owners daily. We've been in the field with several people just wanting to stay in touch, trying to get ideas, trying to answer questions and help. We have responded in several ways. One, we made adjustments to access points. We put in additional signage, including 2 additional electronic message boards on Nova. And just today, City Manager approved funding for additional wayfinding signage, which should be in no later than next Wednesday, and hopefully earlier. And we will continue to stay in communication with the property owners through the entire project. At this point in time, we also are bringing forth to you and asking for your approval and consideration for the city actually promoting an advertising plan, which would be in conjunction with the other things that we're doing to try to keep people informed regarding the fact that the businesses are open and they are available, obviously, for business, and that would be another part of what we're trying to do to help, the businesses as we go through the project. Now, the report that was provided to you today does a couple of things. One, it was intended to highlight the pertinent questions that you would need to consider in trying to develop some type of financial assistance plan if you desire to go that way, and to provide you with an operational model to kind of give you an idea of what a model might look like if you did decide to go in that direction. It is not intended to be the answer, but simply to open discussion on that as to how it might happen. But if you could turn to the first page of the report that you received.
You mean after purpose or before?
Before
What about
purpose.
the memo? This one?
Yes.
Okay.
As you can see, there's 3 major questions that we have to deal with. The first one I just introduced to you is your support of the city actually getting into an advertising program to assist the businesses. There is some precedence for this, and it could prove to be helpful, and we're proposing that you consider that. Secondly is the main question, should the commission maintain the current project program and budget or amend the current project program and budget with some type of business retention financial assistance program to offset the decline of business activity reported by the business owners along the corridor? With those 2 questions in mind, I think the appropriate thing for me to do is stop right here before we move on and see what your direction is. Do you want to contemplate these 2 questions first? Before we move forward, if you desire to move forward, we will do that.
I'd like for you to define an advertising program. What would that entail?
We haven't put it totally together yet. It's an idea that we would get into the newspapers and then particularly into the local papers, reminding people that businesses are open and letting them know, where are we today with construction, that kind of information, what the routing is to businesses. It's, again, just to try to lift the communication going on about the project for everybody. And as I said, there is some precedence for this, and it may not help that much, but it's worth, I think, a try. I think it's a good strategy.
How much money we think of?
We will know more about that as we begin to detail it. We're saying initially, I think that maybe we could operate within the manager's authority, within his $25,000 authority. If it doesn't, we'll come back to you and say we need to do more.
Now, would this money come out the CRA or from?
It would come from the CRA.
Okay.
You're talking about the overall money, right?
The money for the advertising
No,
program?
he just said we would use perhaps the manager's 25.
But I think the money will come from the CRA.
It would come from the CRA, but
He
it
can
would-
authorize the spending without our approval.
But it still will come from the CRA.
But since we don't have this in the master plan, I don't think Jim can authorize it without the CRA approval.
There's Reed, he could answer, right?
Yeah.
We do allow for advertising as a part of the plan, so there is a place there for doing advertising. We don't
Okay.
have a line item for it right now, but certainly we could do it per the plan.
We could amend it simply.
Okay, well, I have a question. Why can't this come out of our project? I mean, why, or did we not budget? Did we not budget to do these kind of things in there at all? I don't understand why this can't come out of what we're funding the project for.
The project fund is principally the loan plus the, we had a certain amount of money from the county that they gave for us taking over the road. But there's nothing in that budget that includes this. There are some contingency areas, but I can tell you right now, the loan money cannot be spent for this. The loan money can only be spent for construction.
Well, can the contingency funds be spent for that?
There is some contingency money in there for construction contingencies. There is a small amount of money that might be applied to this, but that's up to you.
Okay, well, Jim, go ahead.
There are monies in that budget that we could put to it. Now, how the project ends up in the end, it could impact the finish of the project, but certainly there are monies that could be used for that purpose.
Okay. I will tell you, first of all, I'm not comfortable using CRA money. I don't want to use the CRA money for this. I'm just going to go ahead and say how I feel right now. I think we messed up. We're a day late and a dollar short. We should have had these signs up before we started. I know the meetings were important, but you've heard me say I'm down there all the time, and I couldn't find anything. Now, the blue signs are helping. What we're doing now, a month later, is helping, but in my opinion, it's really late for those merchants down there. And we really dropped the ball, because the flashing signs should have been up at day one. Those blue signs, again, the blue signs are not enough. I'm telling you, driving down there on those streets, I have no idea Church's Fried Chicken is down there if I was looking for it. I would not know that. Or any of these other businesses. It says Medicine Shop and Plazas, I think now, but there needs to be more signage. And knowing what this project was going to be, I will tell you that the first time I drove down there that first week, I was still, oh my God, this is a mess. So, I think we tried to prepare, but it was still an oh my God moment when I drove down there and saw that. And I continue to drive down there and have several more of those moments. So I certainly think we need to do an advertising program. I do not favor taking it out of CRA. We need to find it either out of this construction or somewhere else in our budget to do that. So that's my position on the first item.
Here.
Are we talking about like a public information advertising, or are we talking about advertising for specific businesses, or what are we talking about?
I think all of that is up.
Okay.
Yeah, a media.
I think just comprehensively looking at this project, because right now we're hearing from a certain block, which is, I think, probably one of the more intense areas to be true. But this is going to go all the way down Orange Avenue. So we're going to hear, it's going to go on for a while. So I think a really proactive public information plan, and then getting ahead on the signage to be as proactive as we can, I would certainly support that. And I mean, to me, a public information plan, I don't know what we can include in the construction, would be part of the construction. That's a legal thing, but I certainly do see it as something that's attached to the project, and really just a proactive way to make sure that we're doing the best we can to make what will end up being a great project palatable in the next couple months, year.
If I may, let's just so we get kind of clear on a couple of things. The project, the street closure is in this first phase is about 3 blocks, and then it's going to move the next
By section, right? Every 2 or 3 blocks, right?
Every 2 blocks or 3 blocks.
Yeah.
So as they finish the first 3,
Right.
then they're going to move to the next sequence of blocks, and
They will finish completely the first section.
So the road, theoretically, the plan was that you had a 90-day period for the road to be closed totally to traffic, so those businesses would be impacted significantly during that first 90-day period. And then it rolls to the next block,
Right.
which then the delay or the inconvenience and the lack of through traffic is going to move to the next block, not necessarily those last three. So the period of time where the frontage is going to be impacted should be that 90-day period as you go through. And as you go to get to Ridgewood and beyond, then because of the width of the road, you don't encounter the same problem.
There will always be two lanes.
Because there are always lanes open there,
Two
because
lanes
the
open,
road's
right.
wider, we got more room to work. And the two problems that they've had with this project is, number one, the depth that they're working in. And as far as the pipes, they're not your normal 6-foot depths, they're significantly more than that. And since this is the end where the drainage exits, the drainage pipe itself is significantly larger at this end than it will be as you move forward, because it gets smaller and smaller and smaller because of the capacity it has to carry. So the very worst of the project is really occurring right now on that bottom end. The project will get better as it goes forward. We're going to have problems with some of the businesses that are up there, but I think the most significant issues that I see are really where these two blocks that we're in right now. That's where your most of your retail and commercial stuff seems to be located right now. Now, there's some up as you go up, but not nearly the same concentration.
And I would add one other thing. What we found is, as we've unearthed, that many of the utilities are not where they're supposed to be, which is not uncommon in these types of situations, but that's making it a little frustrated also. But prior to the rain, they were really staying on schedule. But it is a very complicated job in that area, very complicated.
Commissioner
How long do you anticipate the entrance to Orange Avenue off of Nova Road being closed?
At the end of this first section, which should take about 90 days, plus or minus according to the weather, then that section will be opened all the way to Nova.
So that's
Okay.
the end of November, you're thinking it'll be open? Within a month, and that'll be 2 months from now.
Approximately 90 days, give some days for weather, yeah,
So it's been a month, so 2 months from now, which would be the end of November,
depending on weather.
depending on weather.
Right.
And we're talking about 7 increments of these 90 days down Orange Avenue.
Right.
And this is just the first.
They'll come in 2 or 3 block sections.
Okay. I think it's tough to address the first two questions without addressing the third question, because our answers are probably going to vary substantially depending on the answers to the other questions.
Okay.
But that being said, I think an advertising program is a good idea depending on the cost structure of it. Not only because it will help the businesses during construction, but also because it helps them recuperate some of the losses that they have either way, they're going to have losses, we understand that. And so beyond the 2 years, we've advertised them so that their business is stronger after the 2 years than it possibly would have been, and that's the goal of the whole project anyways. But again, I think we need to address question 3 in line with 1 and 2.
May I ask just one more question of Ron while he's here? That's more of just a construction question. Other than the rain, is the contractor on schedule?
Yes,
Okay, so the delays have been because of rain.
yes.
And is there any way that they'll make up those delays?
Well, it's possible.
I mean,
It's possible. If it stays dry, it's possible they can make up some time.
Okay.
But I can't tell you factually that it will happen. I know they're going to try to get out of that area as fast as they can because that's their really toughest area. And they know the problem that we're having there. But I don't think anything other than rain is causing delays. Now, they've been able to deal with the problems of finding utilities in places they're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's just part of the drill. But I think the rain has been the only real problem. And we hadn't found Jimmy Hoffa yet, so. No mastodons.
Oh, yeah, that was another one.
Yeah.
Hope not, yes. Well,
Is that it for you? Yeah, you see, we're at a point where this is not an easy situation for me. I understand you guys feeling that I just don't want to put money, if it's not going to work, if you just assume that doing some advertisement in the newspaper and saying that may or not, if it's not going to work, I don't want to, just put some makeup on the situation and throw money away. And not saying that I don't, I think Carl's point might be right. If it increased publicity would help, but I think what folks are really after is, survival. So.
And I think to carry on with what you're saying, to me, the only thing that I know will work is to get done.
right.
Even if we give grants, like, to get done. So whatever, my message would be whatever we can do, other than stop the rain, to get that done, even if it costs us a little bit extra. There are times in construction that, if people, I know rates are higher on weekends. It costs more to get people to work more. But, my number one priority would be whatever we can do in this tight section to get it done is the first thing that I would like to see happen.
And I can't tell you factually whether that marketing effort would help their businesses or not. I know we spend a lot of money on advertising with the assumption that it will.
I think signage is going to help, and I think that's going to be a big thing. We're talking about wayfinding type signs, over to ISB and off of Nova, so that we can get people back there. It's not going to totally solve any issue associated with that traffic just because we're closing the road.
Yeah, but signs are a big deal, because I'm telling you, being down there all the time before the signs went up, it was very confusing. Can I go here? Can I go there? Are they open? Are they not open? And finally, I think we've got enough signage up there that it's easier for people to navigate. And I live here, and that's what I'm just saying. Customers, I'm sure, just turned around and went somewhere else that aren't familiar. So
Well, the additional signage that Jim signed off on today really came from meeting with the property owners.
good. Well,
Yeah.
and it's good. I just wish we'd done it before we started. That's all I'm saying. Hindsight's 20/20, but it sure would have been nice to.
Is that what we're looking at here?
Is it this stuff, Jim? The blue?
Yes.
The blue, okay. Which is, it's needed, it really is.
So can we move on from advertising and talk about what we really need to talk about? Oh.
Can we move on for advertising? My mic wasn't on.
Sure. So, second question.
Mr. Mayor, just the last one on advertising, can we have a formal plan and a budget brought back on that?
We'll have to bring it back. We do not have a formal.
Can we get that? I think that everybody seems to show some interest in it, but I would like to see some more detail about, particularly timing and budget, because we're talking about what sounds to me like a few $1,000s a month minimum for 2 years. So, it's a $100,000 or $50,000 investment over multiple years, but like I said, I'd like to see something a little more formal about what we think would be effective and what it would cost.
Right. And the purpose tonight was just see if you have the interest to move forward with it.
I understand that, and I think, I'm certainly interested in hearing more.
In addition to, yes. And then as we've moved further up Orange Avenue, there aren't businesses as great in number, as we come up that will be impacted. We've got professional businesses and personal businesses that are being impacted right now.
And once you're on Orange Avenue, if you're coming from Nova, it's going to be a lot easier to direct people to a business that's in that third or fourth block than it is right now, where people are just not getting off of Nova onto a side street that they can, get to, the folks that are being impacted right now. So we'll get better, but, we really just have to figure out how to survive this first, these next couple of months.
I got a question. I want to piggyback on you, Kelly. Like this first phase to get it done, is there any plans to do any night work?
No.
Okay. I just had to ask that question.
I guess to follow up on that, because I'd asked the same thing.
Oh, okay.
And we're in neighborhoods, and that's part of the issues is that going to be more disruptive to the neighborhood than, I think the first thing you do is you work 7 days a week, you stretch the construction time through, but if you start working at night, then we're going to have other problems.
I got you. I was just thinking just for this first section.
Yeah, but there's no, in this area we're talking about, I don't know of any residential.
On the side street.
Yeah, look at your map there.
Well, maybe I'm thinking of a bigger area.
Let me answer your question. The problem you have with trying to work at night here is because you have very deep cuts that are very dangerous.
Can't see.
It's very difficult to do that at night. Second thing is you have active gas lines in that street. If they're not clearly identified and valved off, or you hit one before it's valved off because you can't see it, a lot of people are going to get hurt. So the contractor is saying can't do it safely, not at night, because of those reasons.
But we could do 7 days a week.
I would assume you could, if we're willing to pay the
Yeah,
premium.
I'm okay with 7 days a week. It was just a question I was asking. I'm just saying, if we get through this first section and get Orange Avenue open up from Nova Road.
But are we doing 7 days a week is my question. Are we right
No, we're
now?
not.
No, we're asking, can we?
So can we get a budget, can we get some budget numbers on that too? Because it's going to be paying, time and a half or double time to extend beyond the work week, unless they can hire another crew that will work those weekends. So I think we need to see some numbers on that as well. And what the effect it'll have on the, on the end, and if we're talking about using, I believe, using some of the funds that we had set aside for this to get MLK done. So every time we go down this path, what we're doing is we're jeopardizing MLK. So I think we need to be aware that that's really kind of the discussion that we're having, is this money's got to come from someplace. If we jack up the construction costs, where's it going to come?
Or can we negotiate some of the rain days when they weren't able to work, that they would work on the weekend?
They won't do that.
They won't do that.
Not according to the contract.
They've got a pretty good contract. But we just need to work with them, confine to what we
We'll work with them and see if we can do that.
All right.
Ron, it might be worthwhile also, what's the road that comes out to Nova that's the first road south of Orange Avenue? If you went south on Keats Street, the first road that joins Nova.
Bellevue.
I think it is Bellevue.
It is Bellevue.
So, right, so if we could maybe get some of the blue signs at the corner of Nova and Bellevue saying enter here versus going all the way to ISB and back around. It's probably just a few more signs, but at least it'll
We
be
can
some.
do that for like the plaza, those properties
Right.
on the south side. It's a long way, but it is.
It's the first entrance,
Depends on where they're
Yeah.
coming
If you're
from.
coming south, though, it would make more sense if
Yeah.
all the way up.
and it's a limited cost. I mean, it doesn't cost us that much to put those blue signs out there.
Okay, so we're going forward?
Yes.
Definitely going forward with the advertising, at least some sort of.
Advertising the sign.
Come on with a plan.
Signage.
is real important.
Signage, you're already doing, but advertisement, we want to get some budget.
Right.
That we say that we want to, we're not saying we want to do it, we want to get.
Some numbers.
You'll get your
Get a
budget.
plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a plan and a budget for going to 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's through the first section?
yeah, let's.
I think the first section only.
Yeah, first section.
Catch up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, should the commission maintain the current project program budget or amend the current project program?
That's really kind of what we've been talking about here, the advertising, the changes we're considering
Yeah.
right now is
Okay.
really part of that discussion.
All right,
One and two are kind of tied together.
tied
Yeah.
together, okay. If the committee, okay, then the third question.
Right.
Which is really,
So the question is, do you desire to move forward with some type of financial assistance program? And if so, we'll move right on through, or if you're saying, no, I don't want to make that decision until I hear the rest of it, we'll do that. what you're...
I think that's what they want.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely, I mean, I can't, I need to see something and some sort of research with these businesses and a plan. I'm more in favor of the third.
Okay. Now, let me just make sure that you understand that we put this together as a starting point for discussion, just so you can kind of see the kind of difficult questions that are involved in putting something together. This is by no means a final recommendation. And as you'll see, you're going to struggle with a lot of these issues to get to a final point of what you may desire to do. So with that in mind, if you, on page 1, there are at least 5 major questions that we have to address. And that's A, B, C, D, and E. 1, what type of assistance programs should be utilized? B, which businesses should receive the assistance? Thirdly, how much assistance should be given? When should the grants be made available, or the assistance in whatever form it would come? And then how much would such a program cost? So if you move over to the next page.
I have one more question
Yes,
that I
ma'am.
would want to be part of the discussion is, what kind of documentation would be required to receive it? Because, again, if we choose to do this, it's got to be, it can't just be, well, I had this happen. If you're going to do something like this, you've got to have some, and I don't see that on there.
Question A.
Well, okay, but to me, that doesn't ask the question that I'm asking. I mean, it's got to be.
I think he's going to cover some of that as he goes through kind of an example of how to, what you would look at. There's another, just before you get started, I don't think there's any one process of identifying impacts that will work in every case. So that's part of the thing we've struggled with this. Go ahead.
Well, there are 3 possibilities. If there's more out there, I don't know what they are. But the first would be a direct grant program. The problem with a direct grant program is it is the most difficult to target specifically to where the need is. When you start giving out money, the line grows real quick for the people who want it. And how you document, well, why should I give it to you rather than the other guy, becomes a difficult process to manage. However, the grants program is the fastest and the easiest to administer, fastest getting money to people. So there are pros and cons of all these options. Loans. The loan is one that really requires the business owner to get in a partnership with the city, since we're the lending entity here. And it specifically says to a business, if you hadn't got a really need here where you're willing to pay back a loan, you probably don't want to be in line with your handout. So it gives some discipline to that, who gets the money. You understand what I'm saying there? It's different from receiving money, cash outlay, than saying I will receive a loan, that I have to pay back. Thirdly, there's the reimbursement for losses. This one is very complex because the proof of loss becomes the document. The proof of loss has to be scrutinized. It has to be a valid statement. It would involve potentially taxes, reports, and things that people don't want to talk about to get into what is your real loss. Also, it takes a lot more time. So, but reimbursement for losses is not uncommon, and loans are very common in redevelopment areas. So the question becomes, what's most important? Documenting the need or getting the money out as quickly as possible? So, pardon me?
What's the major drawback with the loan program?
The time just setting up the loan documents. It can be done. And then you got to collect the loans. And you run into that problem. But some will, some won't. But you can try to get whatever collateral or security you can within the loan document.
And then whatever we choose to do, we're going to do that in each segment as we move to the east? I mean, we can't just offer it in this segment and then,
Can't do just one.
yeah, so I mean,
Well, you
it's,
gotta, once you decide what you're
Yeah.
gonna do, you gotta offer it.
I mean, I can see this easily
well-
climbing into the millions of dollars that we,
Well, we'll go further to that question in just a moment. So who should be eligible? And I think that begins to answer that question. Now, because of the grant model being the quickest way to get money out there for purposes of getting this discussion started, that's what we try to model on, was the grant assistance program. Not to say that should be it, but we use it as a way to get started. And what we're saying is that since vehicle access is the issue, then the grants should be targeted to those people who are having the most severe access issues that are affecting their businesses. So what we did was we targeted the retail businesses and some service businesses that had retail components in their business. Thinking that where you have these light industrial uses, we have residential uses, really are not affected that much by the problem with access. In other words, those businesses that rely on traffic the most are retail, and those businesses that provide some services that have retail components to it. That was our logic. It might be a false logic, but that was the logic we used to get started. So those are the uses that are targeted in the model that we built for getting started, because it relates directly back to vehicle traffic on that road. We also limited the businesses to that section between Nova Road and the railroad tracks. Reason being, from the railroad tracks forward, you'll always have 2 lanes open. From the railroad tracks back to Nova, they have complete closures. And those are the people that's going to get hit the worst. We have the complete closures. So in the model that we did, it's limited between Nova and the railroad tracks, where you have complete closures for 90, maybe even 120 days at most.
Is the model built on retail only?
Yes, retail and some service where there's a retail component. It does not include light industrial, it does not call residential, it does not, include offices where their business is by appointment. By appointment means you got time to tell them how to get there. With retail, it's you need to go there right now to buy the chicken. You don't have time. If you don't have a way there, you're going somewhere else. You're not going to wait and go to your doctor.
Okay.
So that's the theory of this model. How much, then question C would be, how much assistance should be given? We played with this, toyed with this for a long time, trying to find something that was cut across all the different businesses. And what we finally came up with was all the businesses have square footage in a building. So we kind of modeled it on an average of $8 per square, per square of space. For the 90-day period, not to exceed $1,000 in any 1 month or $3,000 in a 3-month period. So the maximum that an entity would have would be $3,000 over a 3-month period. Now, should it be $4,000? Should it be $5,000? That's the kind of decisions you're going to have to deal with. But this is where we looked at it, said this would not be a major expense on the CRA.
And what was the total number that was estimated based on your model?
If you use only the businesses, and you have a table attached, if you the black line above the black line are just those businesses that we talked about. If you use those businesses and that maximum of 3,000, you're talking around $40,000. I would say that 50,000 or under to do that.
How many increments are there from Nova to the railroad track? This is the first.
I think there's 7.
All 7?
increments.
I thought 7 included to Beach Street.
It may.
3 and a half.
3.5.
Well, one segment goes from Marion to Seagraves.
Let's say 3 and a piece of another one.
Yeah, because Marion and Seagrave, that's nowhere.
I know there's 7 in the entire project.
That goes beyond the railroad track.
Yeah.
Seagrave is on the other side.
Yeah.
So we're saying 3 and a piece?
Yeah.
3.5. Yeah. We're not counting that part between the railroad tracks and Seagrave to make it 3.5.
Oh, by the way, Mark Beanstra is the owner's rep. He's the project engineer for this project that represents us. Okay. When should the grants be made available?
Actually, Ron, hold on one second. So in the table, this is, I think I misread this. So above the line, those are all of the,
The businesses that we targeted.
Current
for
businesses.
all segments, for all 3.5 segments, right? Not just the
Yes,
first one?
Yes, for the segments between Nova and River.
Okay, I got lost because so many of them are in this first segment.
Right. And you may look at that and say, no, there are others that should be in there. I mean, this is what we have to deal with in setting a program like this up.
Well, and the folks that talked earlier tonight are not on the list.
Right.
So,
They're down below the line.
And they're not in retail.
But yet, they've said they've had an impact, so I mean, this is going to be a lot trickier than, and I know you had to have a starting point, and I get that.
This is just a starting point.
Right.
Right. So we get the grants out, and basically we said, because you do have to take the applications and review them, process them, probably the target would be the first of the month following the month in which the construction was initiated. Or basically 1 month in arrears. There will be some admin time involved. The good thing is, we will always know the starting date for the next section. So, okay. And again, the other question is, how much will it cost? It's going to depend on how much money you would approve for a grant and how many people you would approve to be eligible. So if you took all 68 people on there and you gave them $3,000, let's see, be around $200,000.
Oh, Lord, there goes MLK.
For $4,000, it'd be around $275,000. For $5,000, around $350,000.
You can stop now, Ron.
Yeah, for real, you can stop.
Just want to let you know.
Well, as I'm looking at this first increment, this is supposed to reflect the current businesses that have both sides of the street closed?
Yes.
There are 3 businesses on here that are not in that area.
no, Ron, you just said they're everybody, so these are those 3 types of business?
Retail.
For the entire 3.5 segments?
Right.
Okay.
That are retail, that are
Okay.
retail, Paula.
The retail are the top ones.
That's all the top ones are the retail that we targeted.
Right.
And all the others in that
So
section.
that's why they're in
between
there,
Nova
because it's
and
not
the
affected
railroad
yet.
track.
You basically have 3 classifications. You got retail, personal services, and professional. And that's what you're seeing on this sheet.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was mistaken this first group to be the ones impacted right now. But this 39,000 would be all of those from Nova to Seagrave.
If you went with what they're proposing, the model they're proposing.
If you went
Okay.
with the business classes that we're proposing, it'd be around $40,000 only for that top 16.
All right, and this
If you
top...
add more people to it, it gets more and more expensive.
Okay, well, this is where I want to stop. The top 16 right here, that's Midtown.
That's Midtown, right.
So I could stop at 40,000. And you need to find another 200,000 somewhere else.
Well, that's the way it will work. They couldn't.
No, we have to look out for everybody else, but you wouldn't spend CRA Midtown money elsewhere, is what I'm saying. Because this is all Midtown, the 40,000.
Aren't all these other
I think
businesses on the list?
all that.
They should all be in Midtown.
All of them are
Yeah, it's all
Midtown?
Midtown. Yeah.
But that's what I just asked. Did this include everything from Nova to Seagrave?
Everything from Nova to railroad tracks.
They don't get anything. Okay, let me make sure what Commissioner Henry is telling me is correct. These businesses get nothing.
Right.
According to this model.
In our first proposal, they would get nothing unless you add them back to the list.
And they're in the
Yes.
Nova to Seagrave area?
Yes.
Oh.
I have a question. Maybe Jim, Ron, I don't know who's going to answer it, but it goes to the larger issue of, have we had a project of this nature in the city before? Because I know state law doesn't require anything. I get that. I know we've had that conversation or seen the emails. Have we had a project of this nature elsewhere in the city and we compensated?
No.
And businesses were negatively impacted?
Yes.
Okay.
Main Street, A1A,
Main Street.
Well, I
ISB.
remember ISB. It was long before I was on the commission, but I remember merchants coming and being very upset on that bridge, and, yeah. So
B&B.
it's a big impact
This
when we
is
do these things.
unprecedented.
Okay, it's unprecedented.
It is unprecedented.
Okay.
And as I said, this is something you think real hard about.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of what it means in the future to other projects.
If we do it.
Yeah.
You have other projects that are
I know.
lined up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know we told all those other merchants that came and complained in the past, no, that's what I'm getting at, is they were all impacted, and they all just had to deal with it, so.
Well, this, I hope demonstrates to you the complexity of coming up with a plan that you can feel comfortable with, and the kind of questions we have to answer in order to get to a final approach. And I'm here to answer any more questions and, quite frankly, take any ideas.
Ron, when could you get us an estimate on going 7 days in that small section?
We will.
When? Like, what's reasonable for?
We'll start that discussion tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know the reps here, too. I know you're not going to throw out a number, but
Yeah.
that's really, I mean, that's what I'd like to see. Again, a lot of these are great. They're never things I would replicate on doing the other projects. I mean, I'm thinking of what could we replicate if we got in a bind again? And other than just pushing hard on our contractor, and if we need to throw a little bit more money at a specific problem and we have it and it's within reason, but we're getting ready to do MLK, International Speedway, who knows what else. We're going to be doing a ton of road construction. So I'm thinking about what I'm comfortable with doing across the board and what's really reasonable. So I would be interested in seeing that 7-day cost, but beyond that, some good wayfinding, I'm not, that's what I'm interested in seeing.
Well, the main qualifier here is a stretch of road that's completely closed on both sides. That doesn't happen in every project.
Yeah, I shudder to think, now, we have to be honest, I don't think that any of the other projects are suffering the depth that this project is, from my recollection.
I think, again, the only thing to me that really solves it is to get it done. Because even a grant, I mean, $1,000 a month, I mean, Church's Chicken, they're probably selling way more than $1,000 of food a day. So that doesn't even do it. I mean, there's no way for us to fix this other than to just get the job done and get it done as quickly as possible. And since it is so unique, like you said, Mr. Mayor, it's such a unique geographical area with the way that we're having to really shut it down. That's why I would, like to look at putting the money where I know it just gets the job done faster. So that's my view.
Well, I'd like to see us advance on looking at grants and loans, because for one business that $1,000 may do nothing for another it may keep its doors open. And for those that a grant won't do enough for, if we offer them the option of a loan, then they would have to meet the qualifications, and then perhaps a loan would keep their doors open. Because I don't think that businesses or people's livelihood should suffer because the city is doing construction. And if this is the precedence for roads that come in the future, just because we've never done it before, doesn't mean we can't do it now.
Just one recommendation on the loans. You mentioned that there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of time consumed. it's almost worthwhile to give the money away in a grant, because if that's what you're considering, versus a loan, because the cost of creating a small loan and then collecting on it, and then all the time consumed by it negates the fact if you just gave it away. So in my opinion, I would think that it's just so time consuming.
And, we haven't talked much about the loss piece, which I understand there's some complications, but I'm still not convinced that having people produce sales tax receipts from last October and the October before and then this October, and us, checking the difference. I mean, I kind of hate to get on that road, but you're kind of making a commitment if you do it. But, that really is what we're talking about, are these people, trying to make these people keep their head above water. And Mr. Kumar that has the church's chicken said that, he probably wasn't going to make it through the 90-day period. I don't know if that $1,000 grant would get him through. So I'd hate to be giving grants away for a business that's going to close anyways. The volume is different, and I think that, if you go that tax receipt methodology, then you end up with something that's at least a little more quantifiable on what assistance you're providing.
We still have to establish a cap.
And there was, yes. Okay. I'm going to call Mr. Kumar and ask him what his opinion was, honestly, because I'm surprised that, I actually left him a message earlier today. We got the materials kind of late, but that really was going to be my question, was if you got a $1,000 grant, $3,000, would it keep you open? And I think it's possible that the answer would be no.
It could be. Maybe it's $2,000 grant, up to a $2,000 grant. That's what I'm saying. This is just a starting point for us to look at the pertinent questions.
Okay. Yeah, we've got some information that you all want us to produce, and we'll try to get that together. Is there other things we need to get other than what we've already discussed?
I think it's important to be able to quantify, to ultimately determine what the loss is, whether that's sales tax receipts or income statements, whatever it is, tax returns. We have to be able to quantify this, in my opinion, in order to move forward. That, again, is going to be incredibly time-consuming.
It will be time-consuming and could take beyond the 90-day period before we ever get any money to these people. That's the dilemma that we talked about right from the beginning.
So then we're back at the grant and them qualifying.
Well, I think where we really are is that you have a lot of work to do. That's really where we are, because we need some answers so we can make a tough decision that's fair, because the one thing that we are trying to say is that, we really do care. We really want you to survive as a business, each one of you. But you realize that it's a complex issue for us as a commission, and, we take it seriously, though, and we're going to try to make a fair decision and try to help you out.
In trying to kind of expedite this process, we can have a number of things going on at the same time. Yes. If we need to quantify the loss for a business that is impacted, then we can start doing that now. If that's going to be an element that you want, and no matter what we do, then we can start collecting that information from, or at least putting the owners on notice that they need to get ready for that, because that's going to be something that's going to be required.
In all likelihood, I would be supportive of that also. I think we all would have to speak to that. But it is something that I could, if it's such a burden, it's something that I could support without that evidence. Although my deepest conviction and feeling is the same as you guys, I would want to have it. But I don't want to totally hold it up if it just couldn't happen that way. Because for some of them, I think that might be a difficult challenge. But I think they should be on notice of that.
And time-consuming.
Yeah.
And one final note from me before we wrap it up. I know that you guys made a tremendous effort to get the people, the business community involved, the people that were going to be affected, to have meetings prior to this construction and everything else. And so I know that it went out there. I know they weren't very well attended, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Not as well as we'd hoped.
Yeah. So it should be a lesson learned for the future. I mean, obviously, with all of the projects coming in the next couple of years, can we do a better job of that? I know that you worked really hard. Don't misunderstand.
No, we learned.
We just need to
learned
do
a
a
lot.
better job of making sure those people attend these meetings so that these questions can be answered, because we knew that there were going to be losses. These questions could have been answered months ago.
We really tried to get them out. We
So
called.
some of them, but I think Commissioner Woods made a point earlier, and I think she was accurate, that some of this, we dropped the ball.
We did.
The
And
way we.
But we learned,
Yeah.
and we're not doing that again, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks. You know what your homework is, sir?
I'm
Afraid I do.
Okay.
And we also said we have to quantify who is and isn't qualified for a potential grant, right? Because we got these ones up here, how do we tell these if they're not?
But we're not that far along yet.
We're
He's
not.
got to get all this stuff done and bring it
Okay.
back. Okay, it's another conversation.
Okay. We had comments and inquiries from the community redevelopment, the CRA. Anybody got any comments, remarks? None? Okay. So this meeting is adjourned. We will resume our regularly scheduled city commission meeting at 6 o'clock, at which point we will also have Dr. Marbett's presentation as a part of that meeting. Thank you for joining us.